On one hand, we're talking about pushing investment in the sector, infrastructure, we're talking about resorts. On the other hand, we are failing in terms of having to work on human capital. So what we've actually decided to do as government is to make tourism, education, to make hospitality, for lack of a better term, sexy. And why am I saying so? Is because we want these boys and girls, you may have seen from the stats that Natalia shared, most of us are not having this particular hospitality qualifications as being in the top 3. Why? Is because, number one, most of it is seen as being casualized. They are not well paid as opposed to the other sectors that we have in our various countries. Now, what we need to seriously look into, obviously, is the human capital as well. Governments need to make sure that these particular jobs within our sector, within tourism, become top tier. Why we're saying they become top tier is simply because we know that in many of our countries, we have a lot of unemployment. I'll speak probably for Zambia and probably for Africa. Now, why we say so is because we want to see as many boys and girls, the youths themselves, to get into the sector. This sector needs to be a white-collar job, as opposed to what is called a blue-collar job today. Reason being that, number one, it is not matched with the requisite qualification. The only way we can pay it better is by way of making sure that that qualification is matched with the requisite remuneration. And that is why we've always found that most of our boys and girls would not get excited to get into hospitality. But on the one hand, we're saying how best can we partner with governments, how best can we partner with private sector. Now that is exactly what we're talking about. We need to ensure that the many boys and girls that we have there, we get them into these schools. We're very happy that today in Zambia, we've prioritized education. Only today, when we got into government, in Zambia today we have free education from grade 1 to grade 12. And we further also added icing to the cake by allowing bursary education, skills sponsorships for those ones who may have the skill but are not yet certified. So we're looking at how best we could certify them, especially within the tourism sector. Now, because of that, we have also gone further. Because of the window that seemed to have opened in our country, we are now reworking the curricula with the Minister of Education. And our hosts, I would like to just commend that what we've seen today here, we've got the Minister of Tourism and Environment, as well as the Minister of Education. That is the one government position that we're taking in our country, where now we're sitting with our colleagues in the Minister of Education, and we're working towards changing, or rather crafting, a hospitality curricula, which will be embedded in the schools. And I'm happy to mention now that the tourism curricula will now be embedded in secondary schools, into tertiary education, as well as an opportunity for us to grow it into the bigger universities, as we may have seen with the other countries that we have. Now, the quintessential question that we have here is, how much investment are we going to put in? Who's going to help us? Is it purely based on government itself, or rather are we going to have to get private sector who's going to handhold this whole process in making sure that we create a value proposition? Now, I'll speak for Zambia today. We have a hospitality school in Zambia today called the Zambia Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Studies. Obviously, the school is small, but we're looking at having to grow it. Why do we want to grow it? We want to create what we'd like to call a culinary school of excellence. In this particular industry of ours, you may have heard from our colleague from Saudi, where they have actually built 3 resorts at an airport, and we're talking about close to 3,000 room keys, which they're going to set up. How best are we going to manage to fill up those particular investments that they've actually set up? Now, for us as Zambia, not only are we looking at setting up training our boys and girls for Zambia only, but we're looking at opportunities of sending them out for export. That in itself will create value in whatever we're trying to do within our sector, within our country, and we should be able to start seeing that over and above what we're trying to achieve. We should be able to start seeing more of the value that we get out of it. Now, to conclude, we should also understand that with the changing times, the world today is evolving at a very, very fast rate. And it's very, very important that we actually pace up with the changing times. We in Zambia have actually created the Ministry of Science and Technology. We realize that the conventional ways of doing things have actually changed. We're talking about how you do your reservation system. We're talking about all your your booking systems. We're talking about how you can actually trend in terms, you can manage what to tackle feedback from your various guests. That in itself is what we think we should be able to put in place to ensuring that our boys and girls who we get to employ in the various resorts that we have, in the restaurants, in the bars, at the historical sites that we have, lovely Samarkand, you've seen it when we went around the other day, we could actually tell that the boys and girls who are out there explaining the history behind what they have today, they're very passionate about it, and that's exactly what we want to do. So whoever we're going to invest, whoever we're going to train into our sector should be able to really apply themselves to making sure that that particular tourist who's going to visit your country will leave your country with a lasting impression and making sure that he's a retained client, or rather he'll be able to refer that particular tourist to come to visit your country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nasser, how to foster innovation in tourism education? What's